Hello, welcome to the Play Up podcast with myself, Scott Mclachlan, and I've got three good friends of mine who are going to join me today. I've got Tim, I've got Jeff, and I've got Jamie. So we promised we'd do a second one, and we've managed to get to a second one. So I hope you enjoy listening to this. Pompey have had a great Fab February, as we were discussing last time, and hoping to get 5 wins out of 5. As we record this on the Monday night after Reading, we have 4 out of 4. So only one more to go at Charlton, and that's going to be an easy one, boys, isn't it? No doubts about us beating Charlton whatsoever.
Yeah, we always beat Charlton, especially on telly.
So what have we thought about the 4 games? Why have we suddenly hit form? Where has it come from? Because obviously we had a stutter in December and early January, and when the chasing pack started closing, we've just turned on the afterburners. Where's it suddenly come from?
Witchcraft.
Yeah,
I saw Raggett teleport with my own eyes on Saturday. He had no business.
We're going to come to Raggett later. I really want to talk about Raggett's resilience later. So we'll definitely talk at length about Mr. Raggett. But yeah, no, he put in a great performance on Saturday.
Back into the side has been a really important thing for us. He sort of came back in one of the game after the 3-0 defeat at home to Orient. Came in the next game for a few minutes at the end, and then since he's been back in the team starting at left back, I think he's made an incredible impact, as we know that he can do. He seems to have just come back even better and stronger than he was before. I think that's had a big impact from what I can see.
Is that going forward as well as defence?
I think so, Tim? Yeah. I mean, I think he has scored, hasn't he, since he's been back in the side as well. So yeah. I think, no disrespect to Jack Sparks there. I think he did an admirable job filling in. And we always sort of told earlier on before he had many games in the side, he was probably better going forward than defending. And he's obviously tried to address that by improving his defending. But I think Ogilvie coming back in is just, again, happy with Sparks as a replacement to come in. But Ogilvie as number one there is really important for us, I think.
So, interesting stat. In 3 weeks' time, it will be a year since Ogilvie was last in a losing side for Portsmouth. How's about that then?
That's pretty awesome, isn't it?
That's a good stat, yeah. Especially, I mean, he missed the bad period, didn't he? So whether the bad period hits because he was out or whether he was just lucky that he missed it, I don't know. But
I think if you actually boil it down, that period over Christmas, we were playing Saturday, Tuesday, and then we had the 4 games in how many days over Christmas, and that does not suit our style of play. You look at it now, we're playing 1 game a week. You look at what's happening to Bolton at the moment. They're playing Saturday, Tuesday. They've got a fixture congestion. Same as Peterborough. They're dropping points. They're losing games. And I think the way Pompey played with that intensity and that press and everything else, the players were tired. And now you're seeing the fruits of that. We're only playing 1 game a week. We've got 1 more Tuesday game for the rest of the year, rest of the season. Yep. Unless Barnsley gets rescheduled due to the call-ups that Barnsley will have rather than what we have because of obviously of our injuries. But that 1 game a week now is giving the players such a rest, such a boost. And Pompey have changed their days off as well. So when they don't have a Tuesday game, they have Thursday off instead of Wednesday. So if they have a Tuesday game, they have Wednesday off. If they don't have a Tuesday, they have Thursday off, which refreshes them, ready for the trip away on a Friday, going up to the likes of Carlisle and everything else. So that fixture congestion that's gone from our running now, as I think, has seen why we've had this resurgence in form.
Yeah, I mean we wanted to do February really well. We had on paper 5 winnable games, even though obviously we struggled against Carlisle. But Camera came on, made that pass, and we were away. It has coincided with a bit of pressure behind us as well. So I don't know whether that's galvanised the team as well. But I think you're right, Jeff. The less hectic schedule is and 1 or 2 players coming back as well. I know we've had injuries, which we'll talk about a bit later, but. We do seem to have more bodies in more areas of the pitch that can switch and he can rest players, whereas he was I think in January he was forced to play Lane and Kamara all the time, as many minutes as they could put in. And as you say, it was Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. So yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? That, you know, if you just play once a week, you know, you should be really on it. And I guess that's proved with the results that we've seen the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I hope the midweek game we've got is at home as well, so that will help.
Is that Burton? I think it's Burton.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah. So, you know, not too tricky, you would hope. But, you know, we're on 72 points now, 75 maybe after Saturday. It's interesting. I was my son was mascot on the Tuesday night against Cambridge, and it was really interesting. You probably have a lot of comment on this, Jeff, because obviously you knew Danny Cowley quite well, as you said in the last podcast, and I'll tell you what my observations from the dressing room were when we arrived at the dressing room for the kids to get their shirts signed and everything. Almost every single player was sat in their area. They all had the same kit on. They were all ready, talking calmly. There was no jumping about. There was no noise. Everyone seemed to be really focused. And I mentioned it to Marlon Pack. I said, Marlon, what I've noticed is that we, compared to when we were here over a year ago, it seems a different dressing room. And he said, yeah, we're all ready for the team meeting. Once you guys leave the dressing room, we'll close the door and we'll have the team meeting, and then we'll go out and warm up. It seemed under Mousinho seems a markedly different atmosphere around the club, and dare I say it, far more professional. That seems to be the where our success is coming from. Perhaps Mousinho seems to be far more organised than we've had previously.
He's such a straight talker as well. I noticed that watching one of his interviews the other day. He just doesn't mince his words. He doesn't flower anything up. There's no, there's no bullshit bingo. There's, like, you know what I mean. The tropes that you expect a manager to say, and I'm a big old fan of Cowley, but he had a saying for everything, didn't he? And I think that's got to be a lot of difference. It's got to be if he's going in there before those matches, he's telling the players exactly what he expects of them. And when they mess up, he's telling them you've messed up to if he's just being honest rather than say, oh no, you had a good game, you tried hard, you did your best. If you feel someone full of shit each week, they're gonna.
Unfortunately, I didn't meet him. I met most of the players again, and they seemed very focused, but I didn't meet him, unfortunately. So I don't know. Have you met him, Jeff? Have you spoken to him?
I spoke to him briefly at the Pompey Academy Royal Artillery game, which I helped organise. I literally had 5 minutes with him before the game. It was just hello, how you doing kind of thing. But if you look at John Mousinho a year ago, that draw at Oxford and his comments after the game compared to John Mousinho now, he's learned a lot. He's learned how to, he was I don't like using the phrase rookie manager, but he was. I don't like using that. He was the PFA chairman. He's very articulate. I think the more experience he's got football people around him now like Rich Hughes and, and dare I say Andy Cullen, I think is a pretty good CEO. I know he's got his doubters, but all the meetings and chats I've had with Andy Cullen, he's always come across very well, and he's very open. Andy Cullen was brought in for a reason. Rich Hughes was brought in for a reason. John Mousinho, he's grown in the role. He's like we said, his press conferences. Where he went from that's a good draw at Oxford when we were absolutely poor to what he's saying now. That game the other week, you could sense pretty much the anger in the tone he was talking about at that 2-2 draw at Oxford, calling the defending idiotic. The previous year he never called it that. He was very diplomatic. Now I think we're seeing the real John Mousinho. We're seeing the one who is getting his point across, who is getting those messages into the players. They're going in at half time and all of a sudden they're coming out like a totally different team. How many seasons have we seen that Pompey have been a poor first half team, but second half they come out all guns blazing? Against Reading the other day, it took us 35 minutes to get going. But there. Obviously, you guys know I do another podcast and I do a feature called Third Eye. There was one third eye that really stuck out, and I've looked back at it today. When Paddy Lane scores against Northampton, Marlon Pack gets that ball in the middle, and if you turn the volume up to max volume, all you hear in the background is someone screaming at Paddy Lane, "Paddy, get on your effing bike!" And Pack pings that ball out. Now I swear that's John Mousinho.
Yeah,
John Mousinho seen that pass. John Mousinho.
It was offside, by the way. It was definitely offside. That linesman had a shocker, not only for that sending off, but
yeah.
I was almost in level with it, and he was at least 2 yards offside. But anyway, we'll take
Pat,
it.
He's seen Marlon Pat lining up that diagonal, and he's gone, right, do you know what? Someone's going to have to tell you to get out there, and he done it. And it's like Jamie was saying, he's not mincing his words now. We're at the business end of the season, and you've seen this attitude change in John Mousinho. He's like, right, these are the standards. And Pat's talked about the standards, and all the players are talking about the standards, the high standards. He's making sure that they deliver those high standards week in week.
Like I said, it was like day and night, the atmosphere. So when we were there, so my son went twice because they cocked up the photographs. So we got a second one free later on in the season. That was actually John Mousinho's first game. But when we were there, before Christmas at the FA Cup first round game that we won, the dressing room was all over the place. There was people running around half naked, just shouting stuff at people, and half the players weren't there, and there didn't seem to be any organisational discipline. When I went in on the Tuesday night, it was like a mini army. They were all in their kit. They all looked regimented. They all looked well drilled. They all looked ready to go. And I guess that's where this success this season is coming from. He's got players who respect him and buy into what him do, and clearly won't step out of line. Because he's got that discipline.
I think going back to the point as well, in the higher echelons of the club, they've got football people in there now. I've said it before. The Cowleys had a big say in Rich Hughes coming into the club, but Rich Hughes had a big say on them leaving the club. That's the importance of this guy. You look at his signings.
Well, I think most of the Fratton end had a big say in the Cowleys.
Well, yeah, as well. but the decision was made before that game. Trust me.
Right, okay.
But you look back at the last January transfer window all the way through to this January transfer window. This is the best January transfer window I think the club has had. And I've said this before, since the great escape in the Premiership when we bought Pedro Mendes and all those players.
Power row.
To get us out of trouble. There's been a couple of I wouldn't say dodgy transfers in the summer, but there's a couple of players who haven't stepped up to the mark. One's had obviously a serious knee injury, Scully, but Gavin
White back on Saturday as well. I wasn't expecting him to be back just yet, but yeah, it was good to see him back on the pitch. Still doesn't stay wide. I was screaming it for 10 minutes to stay wide. He drifts into the middle of the pitch. We'll see.
Honestly, if he didn't get a long-term contract in the summer, he'd be the first out the door in August.
Yeah, he might still be. He might still be, but we'll see.
Yeah, when you've got, and I said it at the beginning of the season, when Jack Sparks is a better winger than Scully and White, you've got problems.
Yeah. Well, we'll go on to the new boys in a minute. But so we've had the 4 out of 4. What are we thinking for Charlton on Saturday? I know Jamie's really nervous, and with good reason, because we are crap against Charlton.
They're just a bogey team, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But is this team going to rise above it? Is this team not that team that succumbs to these kind of quirky bogey teams?
I'm certainly not going to tempt fate, but I bloody hope so.
Yeah.
They haven't won in 15 games.
No, but they had a good go on Saturday.
Oh God, don't say that.
Yeah, that's it now. Yeah.
I've got in my predictions. I do predictions every February for the League One running, and they're scarily accurate the last 3 seasons. And I've got us down as a draw for Saturday.
I'd be happy with that. I would be happy with that.
I think with our past record against them, at the moment, you'd take that, wouldn't you? It still leaves us in a decent, solid position to keep kicking on from there.
Well,
with all the wins we've just had behind us.
We've beaten Charlton once since 2017. Once.
Shocking. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get some points. We are top of the league.
Yeah, you're right, Jamie. We are where we are for a reason. We don't concede goals. We've got a great defence. We don't lose games. The games we've lost have been spectacular blow-ups. We don't just lose 1-0. We lose 4 or 5-0. But it's so the whole most of the season it's been built on that solid defence, and I think as Marlon Pack said, the last 2 or 3 games they've managed to really get that attacking part of it right, rather than just keeping teams out.
But the thing is, Nathan Jones, we all know what Nathan Jones's teams are like. He likes a high press, he likes a high intensity press. I don't think this Charlton team are conditioned to play that high intensity press for a full 90 minutes. So I fully expect us to weather the storm for 20-25 minutes like we did against Reading, and then all of a sudden the gaps are going to appear because we play better when teams come at us rather than up the bus. They're going to come at us. They're at home. The pressure's on them to get a result against us. If we can just weather the storm for 20-25 minutes, I think we'll go 1-up before half time. I know I said I got us down to draw, but I think we get an early goal, it's just going to end up 2-3 if we get an early goal, because the gaps are going to appear because they're going to have to come at us even more. The longer it stays 0-0, the longer the chances are it's going to be a draw, because they'll start getting tired, they'll start dropping back, they'll start having 2 banks of 4, or maybe a 4 and a 5 and a 1-up front, and they'll become hard and rigid to break down. That's why I put us down as a draw. But if we can get an early goal, they've got to come at us then, and then I think we'll get a second or third
game. And we had to sort of weather that storm, didn't we, for 25-30 minutes there. And then one great piece of quality from us. Lane was scoring the goal. And then the second half, we just really, really kicked on. So hopefully we can see that happen again against Charlton.
Yeah, I think the Lane goal really was a gut punch for them. I think they were really confident and really thinking, well, we can do something really serious in this game. And we countered and got that. The goalkeeper should have saved it arguably, but it was a great shot by Lane. And then that really brings the Fratton Park crowd into it, and we dominated the rest of the game, didn't we? Really, to be honest. And like you say, Tim, I really hope that's what happens at the Valley on Saturday. Is anyone going? I couldn't get tickets, so
unfortunately not.
I'll have to watch it at home on the telly. So Jeff was talking about the best January. So we got Pert Harris in from Brentford. We got Lang in, obviously, from Wigan, McIntyre from Reading, Moxon from Carlisle. And obviously, we can't really talk about McIntyre because of the unfortunate injury he got. And like I said, that was a shocking decision by the referee and the linesman to send him off. It's a shame he got injured as well. But, it's clear to 99% of that people in that stadium that he played the ball and didn't make a dangerous tackle. So
I don't know if it's true, but I heard that red card was rescinded.
It was,
yeah. They appealed, yeah.
It was fat lot good. It did him with a broken leg.
No, and that's the shame. That's the shame, isn't it? Really, there was no silver lining to that story. He's injured himself and looked pretty decent for the 35 minutes he played. Back in comes Raggett, who we'll talk about later. So I guess we've got to concentrate on Pert Harris, Lang, and Moxon. What's your opinions on the 3 so far? Tim, do you want to join in with this one?
Yeah, I think the pick for me would be Lang. I really enjoyed seeing Lang play. I like all 4 of them. I think they're all going to be an asset for us. But I think Lang comes in and he sort of offers a real goal threat. He's got a bit of swagger and a kind of good attitude on the pitch, and I think he's probably a real boost for the lads in the team and everything to either have him in your side or have him coming off the bench. He looks like he's going to cause problems for the opposition, and that's sort of great news for us. I think Moxon, as well as adding a little bit of height to the midfield, which is a nice change. I thought he sort of grew into the game on Saturday. against Reading. So I thought he looked a little bit nervous to begin with. Obviously, he'd hadn't played very much, of course, this recently at all this season. So I think he made a kind of a pretty good impact as the game went on. He started to look more and more comfortable on the ball, and it was his interception that then led to the ball going forward to Kamara and the goal for Lang. So it was nice to see for him. That will give him a bit of confidence.
Yeah, that was brilliant because Reading tried to cheat.
Yep.
They took the ball at least 7 or 8 yards away from it was, passed it straight to a Pompey player, and then we counter and score. I mean, what brilliant karma that was.
Fabulous, wasn't it?
It was Owen Moxon, wasn't it? Owen Moxon picked the ball up. So...
Yeah, he visibly struggled on Saturday. I'm not sure whether that's because it was his full debut or because it was at Fratton. He had a terrible first 40 minutes, I think, and people were discussing around me at halftime whether we would take him off, put Towler on, and put Shaughnessy in midfield because it just wasn't working for him. But he got. As you said, Tim, he grew into the game on Saturday, and I think that's credit to the management team. To, if someone is struggling, you just got to keep faith with them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've obviously bought him in the January window, so they see something in him for the future. He was a good player in League Two last year for Carlisle. So yeah, again, I could see he was very much off the pace to begin with in the game. But I thought there was some encouraging signs towards the end of it as he started to really get going. And then the other one is Miles Harris, who's come in, and I think he's had moments when he's looked really useful, but I can't remember exactly which game it was, but he just kept drifting out to the left and getting in Paddy Lane's way in one of the games. But he's clearly got quality. I mean, he wouldn't have been signed by Brentford and had minutes in the Premier League this season if there wasn't some quality there. So again, I think it's a cracking January window in the whole, isn't it? It's to add to what we've already got. So hopefully got some other good players to come back. Yeah, I totally agree with what Jeff said earlier. I think it's an absolutely superb transfer window, and I like the analogy of being back to the one when we signed Pedro Mendes and all those players. I think that's a good one.
Jeff, do you want to?
Yeah,
we've lost Jamie. Sorry.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a really strong window, and it just goes to show that you shouldn't listen to other teams' fans. I had loads of people in my mentions on Twitter telling me that Callum Lang is rubbish, Callum Lang is this, I was like, I'm telling you now, like this lad's going to come in and he's going to do something. I had a Pompey fan saying he hasn't played much for Wigan this season. Well, he's played 20 odd, 24 games in cups and league and everything else. He may have only had half hour here, half hour there, but he's been on, involved in match day squads and on the field to play 20 odd games already for Wigan. So some players just need a change of scenery, and as the cliche goes, a change is good as a rest. And he's come in, he's hit the ground running. And I think that's down to his personality as well. He's a Scouser. We all know what Scousers are like. They're bubbly, jovial people most of the time. He'll be in there with Rafferty, and all of a sudden the banter starts going up. 2 Scousers in the squad. The banter starts going around the dressing room, and he's come in and he like I said, he's hit the ground running. As starts go, he's probably had the perfect start to his Pompey career. But again, we talked about Scully and White in the summer, and they're coming in. What Lang has done is what I think most Pompey fans thought Scully and White would have done, but they haven't. And he's come in and gone, right, I'm playing for the shirt. I'm going to get this shirt and I'm going to make a statement. Scoring on his debut, he's got 3 goals now, 1 assist in his first 4 or 5 games. And what I like about him is up until Lang came in, we never had anyone in the behind 3, behind Bishop, who would get advanced to the forward. They wouldn't make that run. Bishop's getting the ball, and Bishop's like, oh, right, I've got to pass it backwards because Kamara's not making a run, Lane wasn't making a run, whoever was in the 10 role wasn't making a run beyond the forward and breaking the lines. Straight away in that Oxford game on his debut when he came on, he was going, do you know what? Colby's got the ball. I fancy myself in a 1v1 with this centre half, and he got into and that, he scored. He danced around 3 defenders and just hooked it in. And the 2 goals he scored at Fratton Park. He's making those advanced runs, but beyond the defender, beyond Colby Bishop, to get in those positions, because he's the only player I've seen throughout the whole of the Pompey season so far this season who has actually done that. We've had numerous number 10s, players in that number 10 position. Not one of them has gone, I'm going to gamble.
To be honest, I don't think he's a number 10. I think he's more of a support striker, a split striker. But he can drop into midfield more. Whereas if you look at Robertson, Pert Harris, and whoever else we've tried to play at number 10, they tried to support the front 3 rather than, as you say, Jeff, get into the box. And that changed the game against Oxford. Colby was so poorly supported; it was unbelievable for most of the match. As soon as we got 4 or 5 players around him, we scored 2 goals and really should have won the game. But he's that kind, as you say, Jeff. He's that kind of player who will go for the flick-ons, who go for the break the lines behind the defenders and get them turned round. Whereas sometimes we play in front of the defence all the time, and it's really hard for Colby Bishop, that kind of thing. But with those kind of runs, Bishop's going to find more space, and he's going to get more opportunities and goals as well.
He's scoring cracking goals too. The one against Oxford, the way it reminded me of my old sensible soccer football days. He cut across the 18-yard box and then turned and put it in the opposite corner. And the one against Reading at the weekend, that was for me, just bloody loved it. I think he's a cracking player. I can see him doing really well for it. Hopefully in the Championship as well.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he brings a real kind of quality and an extra bit of guile to the team, I think, which wasn't there before.
No, definitely not. And it gives us what we were missing. I think, as Jeff's rightly says, we were missing someone who would run beyond the defence, or at least get up and support Bishop close to him. We were concentrating on getting the ball wide and whipping the ball in for one striker. And for a long time, we struggled to score. It wasn't working. But when you've got a proper front 4. Then as we've seen since he came in, we've scored a hatful of goals, and there's no coincidence because you get more players in the box into dangerous areas.
You look at the Northampton game; he steals the ball off their quick free kick, bit like against Reading. He's run a third of the pitch. He's passed it to Paddy Lane. I had Brett Pittman and Viv Solomon Otterball vibes.
Give me nightmares saying that like that.
Yeah, but we got it right. But then you look at his goal against Northampton, how the ball gets whipped in and it gets headed back across the goal, and he's gambled to go, I'm going to go far post, because if this doesn't hit the target, I'm going to go back post because I've got a chance of getting the ball if I go back post. And he peels off to the back post, just literally gambling to go, if they miss the target, I can put this in. And he lashes that ball in. And to me, it's that football intelligence. There's football intelligence to go, if you miss this, I'm going to make the run to the back post to make sure we get the ball back. I can either take a shot or I can put it back in play, put it back in the mixer. And it just opened up for him. And again, it's that pace, that agility, that tenacity in that 10 position to affect and put the defence. There were times against Reading the other day, he was, pressing them, hurrying them, and then Kamara starts going, and then Kamara's fast, Lang's fast. I'd like to see those two in a 100-metre race to see who's actually the quicker of the two. But when you've got 2 players like that who are just going to be busy and get at you, they're going to cause no end of the mid to the bottom table teams, no end of problems in defence when they're pressing.
Yeah, and I think it's the role we really wanted Sadie to play, to be honest. I think that's the role that he was brought in, to be that support striker to Colby Bishop, and I don't think it's quite come off for him yet. Obviously, he had some minutes on Saturday, which is good to see. He didn't look the lightest of players. when he came on. But he was very busy, and there was one point where he did a dribble where it took 5 Reading players to bring him down. It looked like a ruck or a maul in a rugby game. There were so many players around him. So I'm hoping that Sadie watches what Lang's been doing and says, right, okay, I can do that as well. I can be that support striker. So what do we think of Pert Harris? He's clearly got it. He's clearly got the touch and the skills and that languid style, but he's not quite. Apart from the goal, obviously it was a good goal for him the other night. But I think he struggled the most out of the 3 that have come in that are still playing.
So in that Cambridge game, he frustrated me. I've got him at the first half. He really did frustrate me. And if I'd have been the manager, I might have. He'd have probably been the first choice that I had to replace. I don't know what John said to him at half time, but it clearly worked, and he come back and he took that goal really well. And I've watched a lot of his YouTube videos, and as Harry Redknapp says, famously you can't judge a player by their YouTube videos, but I've watched a lot of MPH stuff, and he really does look like a cracking player. So he's definitely got it in him, and I think coming to a big club like Pompey, they're playing in front of the crowd. And new entry to the side, not knowing how to get the best out of them or get the best from the players around him. But yeah, I do think he's got bags of talent. Yeah,
hesitant to run at players when you think that he's got the beating of quite a lot of the players that he would come up against in League One. I don't know whether that's an instruction for the manager to keep a certain shape or whether he's waiting for the overlap, but. I mean, he obviously had that run for the dubious penalty that he got that Bishop missed against Northampton, but I think like you, Jamie, he frustrates me because I think he's got so much more that he can give, and let's hope over the next sort of 12, 13 matches that he gets an opportunity to show us the best that he's got, because I like Robertson. He's one of these players. Very early 20s. You can clearly see he's got the touch and the skill, but it's the footballing drive and tenacity of a Raggett. You combine the two, then you're going to be one hell of a footballer, aren't you? Or a Lang, if you like. Lang's probably not as skillful as Pert Harris or Robertson, but he's got that will to win, and that's possibly what some of these younger players are trying to learn, isn't it? I expect.
I think he's brought the best out of Kamara as well by being competition. When they switched playing over to the right and they had MPH on the left, it meant that Kamara was on the bench for a couple of games, and since that, God, has he come back and he wants that place, don't he? And he did that earlier on in the season as well. He dropped for a couple of games and he come back on fire. Sometimes you need that with players, I think.
As well, as Jeff said earlier, we've got the opportunity to rotate players, give them a game out, bring them back in, and they're hungry and they're energised, and they want to keep their part in this winning team going. I suppose with Moxon, we're going to be worried, aren't we, about the fact that we've only got 2 fit central midfielders left.
Well, you say that because. You say that, but we've just been talking about Pert Harris, and Pert Harris can actually play as an 8 or as a deep line 6. He played there for Chelsea Academy. Right, so okay. That again, so he's a bit like Robertson in that sense. That Robertson played best as a 6 and an 8 rather than as a 10. Although he's got abundance of ability, Pert Harris can actually play in there. So I actually wouldn't mind seeing him next to Marlon Pack and see what he can do, because he's got pace, he's got power, he's got a good turn of pace on him. It'd be quite interesting to see him in there in a game with Lang as the 10 and then Pert Harris breaking into like a 4-1-4-1 type formation at times. So I'm not too concerned that if we get a slight knock, that Pert Harris can go in there for a couple of games, but anything longer than that, then yeah. But then I think you just bring Towler in or or Ogilvie at left centre half, Sparks at left back, and put Shaughnessy into centre midfield.
Can the Northern Orange play there as well? He's going to be back soon, isn't he? Tangerine. He's going to be
Is he back soon,
isn't he?
I don't know.
That's what I've
not
heard.
seen any latest news on his injury.
I think
he's disappeared, isn't he?
I think he's back in training this week or next week, apparently.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. Has he played in central midfield for Chelsea as well, Jeff?
Well, yeah.
Don't know.
Well, he has, but and you got Ben Stevenson only a couple of weeks away as well. So
right.
you've got options there that could you put Pert Harris in there? Yeah. Could you put Anjorin in there? Probably, but I think at the moment you need Anjorin higher up and not running as much and getting back up to match kind of sharpness, because he's had his injury troubles over the last couple of seasons as it is. So would you want to put him into a crucial deep line 6 position? Probably not. Could you afford to have him as a 10 where he can have a bit of a break and get himself back into the game quite easily? Probably. So yeah, I think Ben Stevenson would be the likely one to come into midfield rather than after Pert Harris and obviously Moxon, but Anjorin is a maybe, but I think that they would rather put Shaughnessy in there. Or Zach Swanson. John Mousinho spoke about Zach Swanson playing as a midfield player. So Zach's probably 3 weeks away as well. So you've got players coming back. We just need to manage those midfield players as best we can at the moment.
Yeah, because I can't imagine Pompey without Pack at the moment. That would be a disaster. He seems to be driving as much as Mousinho as he seems to be driving this team. They seem to be a good manager captain pairing.
He's a leader, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a leader.
Yeah, and a local lad as well, which always helps.
Yeah.
So one thing I was going to offer as a suggestion, so no one's mentioned this yet, is it's a bit of an outside, unlikely one to happen. But what about Dewitt-White coming back from loan at Havant and Waterlooville? He's a central midfielder.
He can't come back.
He's helped a little bit of a resurgence
at the
Hawks, I think, recently.
There's no recall in there.
Oh, is that true? Oh,
yeah, I think we'd have to be pretty desperate, yeah. I think, and let's hope we don't get to that point, because we want more players than we can fit into the team, not less.
Yeah.
So one person I wanted to talk about before we finish tonight is Sean Raggett. So we touched on McIntyre's unfortunate injury earlier. So that clearly you could see that from that lineup, the Mousinho's first choice 2 centre backs were going to be Shaughnessy and McIntyre, which would have been pretty harsh on Sean Raggett. But of course, 45 minutes later, he's back in the side and looks to be for the rest of the season. And it's not the first time it's happened either, is it? He was taken out of the team earlier in the season as well. I didn't start obviously because the first choice centre backs were Shaughnessy and it's gone off the top of my head now. Paul. So I wanted to big him up and acknowledge his resilience and the fact that he's done 227 appearances now. He's Pompey's most what do you call it? Capped, appeared. What do you call it in the 21st century? He's if he does get promotion with this team, I think he deserves all the plaudits, because he's been a constant the last few years with Pompey. Not obviously the most skillful player, not the most attractive player. Does give you heart palpitations when he tries to turn on the ball when under pressure. But I think we should really celebrate him, to be honest.
You say that, he done 2 Cruyff turns on Saturday.
I know. I was watching through my hands, Jeff.
I don't know what they put in his ready brick on Saturday, but I want a spoonful of that. He was outstanding on Saturday. I think I alluded to it earlier with Witchcraft. He teleported twice, as far as I'm concerned. There were 2 balls that he had absolutely no business getting, and I thought, oh God, we're going to be under pressure here. And somehow he pulled it out of his backside and saved the day. So, yeah, miracle man on Saturday deserves all of our applause.
When you're... I may have said this to you at football coaching, Scott. When you're when you're training with better players, your levels naturally through osmosis start going up. I think people still have in their mind's eye the Sean Raggett of Kenny Jackett reign compared to this version of Sean Raggett. This version of Sean Raggett this season has gone up levels because he's had to. He's had to battle his place with Regan Poole, then he got his opportunity. He came back in. It doesn't look great at times. He looks awkward. He looks like Bambi on ice at times, and all that. But there's no doubting his commitment. There's no doubting his resilience, his application to the task. There's no better aerial defender than Sean Raggett in this league. Aerially, he's the best defender, best centre-half. He's an old-fashioned centre-half. Ball comes in, bit like Noel Blake, Steve Foster kind of type player, head the ball away. He'd run through brick walls all day long.
Careful, Jeff, you're going back into prehistory there. Some people listening to this podcast won't know who the hell Steve Foster is.
It's like, mate, someone didn't even know who Fitzroy Simpson was the other day when I was slagging off Sam Allison as referee.
Oh, my God, that makes me feel old. But that was 20-odd years ago.
Yeah. So it's look, he's upped his game, and if you actually look at his distribution, he very rarely puts a pass wrong. It looks awkward, but he very rarely puts a pass wrong. He's he 9 times out of 10 he will play the safe pass. Let's call it that. But the one time he will play that risky pass, 9 times out of 10 that risky pass comes off. It really does. And like you said, on as Jamie said, there was a couple of times on Saturday he had no right to get to the ball, but he was like, "You're not getting past me. You're not getting past me. I'm going to defend it. I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm worthy of being in this team." Look, when we go up, and I'm not saying if we go up, I'm saying when we go up, I think the jury will be out whether they give him another contract. They may give him a year, but I think the direction.
I'd keep him.
You say that, but I generally think the direction we're going, I don't think they would.
No. I'd keep him. Well, if he was willing to stay as a backup player to the squad, I'd definitely keep him. Because
Regan Poole will be back in pre-season training. If you've got any doubts, any niggles about Regan Poole, you're going to give Sean Raggett a year just to give you that cover. Unless you're going to sign another right-sided centre half who's willing to play back up to Regan Poole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going from my my football manager, super experience here. I always try, you need at least 4 defenders in your squad. You need a couple of backup defenders. So if Raggett's willing to play, second fiddle to first choice, then me personally, I'd have him at the squad all day long, simply because of his professionalism as well. Like even when he was, was he player of the season last year or close to that, and he got replaced, and his attitude was, I will wait for my chance in the squad and I will take it. And when he's been given it, he has taken it. But I love him.
The other conundrum is though, we've now got 2 proper left-sided centre halves in McIntyre, will obviously be out until the summer, and you've got Riley Towler. So there's your 2 left centre halves. Shaughnessy is actually right-footed and played the majority of these games at right centre half. So now you're going to have 2 left centre halves in McIntyre and Towler, and then you'd have Shaughnessy, Poole, and Raggett. I don't think you can have 5 of them.
I think what this season proves, though, with the injuries, is that I don't think you can have enough defenders. That's the thing. If I know, obviously, we won't be playing in the first and second division cup, whatever it's called now. So that's less games. Not that he was playing many first teamers in that cup anyway, and that was a good. Riley Towler was getting some good minutes in that cup. But we've only got the league. If we go up the league cup and the FA Cup, so you haven't got that extra distraction that you have at the lower divisions. But I still think having 5 centre backs would be wise, because that gives you the opportunity to go 3 at the back if you've if you need to in certain situations, which I think we've seen Mousinho's got a penchant for doing. You know, if the situation matches it, and he you know, he's got no doubt that any player should be able to play any formation, because he said that in one of the interviews, didn't he? He says,
he did.
I don't have to adapt my tactics to the players, because any modern footballer should be able to play the way that I want. So, you know, he's not shy about that confidence side, about, you know, giving his players challenges and them rising up to it. I would give him a year. I would definitely give him a year. There's no certainty that Paul will come back at the start of the season. And I just think he deserves it. I think he deserves it for his service. I think he deserves it for, you know, playing second fiddle quite a lot and being that person that we love to take the piss out of, because he does look like Bambi on ice and isn't the most attractive of footballers, but he's clearly a winner. And you know, if we go up or even, you know, win the league, I think there's no one who deserves to stand up there more than him with that trophy in his hand, because I think he's a big part of what we've done in the last 2 or 3 years.
He's a lot more attractive now. He's got teeth.
Has he had work done? Well,
you know, have you guys ever seen Sean Raggett's Strava stats?
No.
The guy is a fucking gazelle. he done something. He done something like 10Ks in 32 minutes or something like that.
Crikey.
Honestly, the guy is one of the fittest players. I remember watching under Danny Cowley pre-season training. I just popped down to the training ground just before they put all the banners up so you could look through the fences. And they were doing laps of the pitches. Sean Raggett lapped Ronan Curtis 3 times. He was out in front.
That's more on Ronan than it is on Sean Raggett.
No. But Sean Raggett lapped a number of players. Sean Raggett was the first player in that run, and he was lapping midfielders and wingers. And you think your wingers and midfield players would be the fittest people out there, wouldn't you? Because they're box to box and up and down. Sean Raggett lapped the majority of that team. Honestly, go on Strava, find him. He was out in Dubai or something like that, and he runs something like 5 miles and something fucking ludicrous in Dubai heat. And you're like, honestly, he's half gazelle. The bloke is half gazelle.
Well, his legs are on like back to front like a gazelle's anyway, aren't they? So you know.
But look, he's not great in a sprint. I wouldn't say he's a sprinter, but if you're 75 minutes into a game and you've gone up for a corner and all of a sudden they break, he's going to be fit enough to get back. And that's the difference. You know, that's the difference in your defenders being fit enough to see that out, because he will make it back. He looks gangly, but I'm telling you now, the bloke is a machine.
Well, I wanted to talk about him tonight because, like I say, he's had an up and down couple of seasons, and he's back in, and he's gonna make sure that we stay where we are. So the very last thing I put on the show list was applause for Kamara's goal, but that was because we were going to do a recording last week, and that was it's obviously we've had the Reading game since we planned to do the original recording. So, my son, 7 years old, stood in the Fratton end. We were on Tuesday night for Cambridge, and all I heard from him was, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," for about a minute and a half. It's the best goal he's ever seen. Just very quickly, let's end on what we think is so far our best goal of the season.
Cool.
I'll give you a minute to think about it. If it's not that one, what is it?
I'd have topical. Raggett's goal in that cup game. That was world class.
Did one from distance,
40-yarder.
Yeah. But Kamara's goal was great.
He had another go in Carlisle, didn't he? It didn't quite come off.
Yeah. And Paddy, the Plains goal from Clang set him up, and Paddy Lane went running towards the
counter attack, the Jeff.
Was it Northampton? Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, it reminded me of Shearer, that.
Yeah, we've scored some bloody good goals recently. They haven't been Colby Bishop tap-ins. They've been quality crafted goals. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me again. We've done another 45 quality minutes, I think. Episode 2, or is it episode? How do you do these things? Is it episode 2 or episode 1? If you start with episode 0. Anyway, so second time we've done this. We'll do this again in about 10 days' time. So thank you very much, gents. Been a pleasure. And I'll see you all again soon. Play at Pompey.
Much love.
Cheers.
Have a good one.